1, 2, 3, and. Love's like a green oasis when the deserts parched me dry, and this thirst so long and aching is alone what makes me try, is alone what makes me try. Just as my hope's exhausted, when I've fallen to a crawl, then the sight of your sweet water hits my senses like a wall, hits my senses like a wall. And I'm drowning in your glory, and that wasteland's far behind, and my thirst is all forgotten in the wonder of my find, in the wonder of my find. Sweet oasis, my salvation, and my shelter, come what may, I will make you my possession, never let you get away, never let you get away. Pools have a way of drying, they can shrink before your eyes, and the dust I woke up drinking was my own mirage of lies, was my own mirage of lies. For the water is freely given, but it cannot be contained in the hands of man or woman. It will dry up like the rain, it will dry up like the rain. I will taste the cup and pass it, I will gladly face the sun. I will find in the true surrender that the waters always run, that the waters always run, the waters always run, that the waters always run, the waters always run.
Hi, welcome to another Question and Meaning with Arthur and Katie.
Welcome, folks.
And that's a song by Arthur called Oasis. And as we said, we thought we'd talk about love some this week. We don't talk a lot or think a lot about what we're going to say. We try to be really spontaneous, other than having a subject and picking out the songs that seem to fit that subject. And what we wanted to talk about today was love, and not really relationship love so much. You know, we had a show that was specifically about relationships. And so we were thinking about more like the mechanics of love. You know, we like things that are the mechanics of things. You know, we don't like kind of airy-fairy ideas. We like really going into the nuts and bolts. So when we picked that song, Arthur said, well, that's really, I think of that as a song about relationships, and I've never thought of it that way. And so it was interesting as you were just singing it there.
Love requires a relationship, just for starters, but I mean, it's the way I'm in the song. I'm describing the way I always react to love. I react to the experience of love ordinarily, overwhelmingly. I'm talking about the romantic love category, by getting out my elephant stake and trying to stake my claim and hold on to it. Because I'm like a starving child. If your life is anything like mine, love is exceedingly rare, and when you do stumble on it or fall in it, is a much more apt way of putting it. And we'll talk about why we think that process happens, what falling in love means. The tendency is to hold on to it. You're like a starving child given the keys to a bakery shop, and the tendency is to gorge.
But I think that it really does also describe the universe, love for anyone, love for your child. I mean, I was thinking about it. I don't have any children, But Arthur has a daughter, and I look at my love for her, and it was possessive. It was competitive. I tried to be a better mom than her real mom, which caused all sorts of problems. And I tried to have her love me more than anyone else, which caused me all sorts of problems.
She called Katie her play mom.
It diminished my relationship with her. So, I mean, I would say in every area of my life, in every relationship where love existed, these same issues exist. And in my relationship with the stranger on the street, and it's the grasping after love that causes it to dry up, no matter where you turn. And so that's why I think of it as more universal. So, but anyway, so let's
define it.
Define love.
We define love because we like to define everything, because stuff we're playing with, we're interested in broad universal truths. So we like to think of them as such. Laws that apply to everyone, everywhere, every time, anywhere, and that way there's I guess I'm really insecure and I feel safe when that works. That means I even have to include myself in the equation, or, I could never go to a prostitute and feel like she was enjoying it. You know what I'm saying? I like to feel the truth is present only when we drop the masks and really, as much as we can. And there's a space of honesty and integrity. Can I feel comfortable? That's why I spent a lot of my life alone, because I used to drop acid with people, and it was just incredible how many of them just could not let go of their ego. Here it is. Here's the opportunity to just drop the act. Take a little vacation for a few hours from your freaking personality that's a total invention and is not who you really are. There was a few times it was magnificent experience, but I digress. So let's talk about love, our experience. Love is an experience. It's not a belief. It's not a feeling. I'm going to do a song in a little bit called I'd Choose Love. And it says, my feelings stretch across the widest spectrum, changing every heartbeat of my time. And if there was some way I could select them, there's one choice I knew that would be mine. I was thinking about that because it isn't a feeling. Mm-hmm. A feeling, an emotion is triggered by, from our earlier shows, what we call a surviving thought form. It's a belief that, like every other surviving form in the universe, attempts to maintain its existence, structural integrity, remain unchanged through time. So a belief says, it's okay to be happy here. And this is going to segue into how we fall in love. This I find acceptable. It's okay. But that's not what love is. Love is way beyond that. Love isn't even a survival technique. It happens to be, we think, the optimum form of survival, but it's not a flight. It doesn't come from survival at all, because it doesn't have to worry about survival because it comes from an eternal source.
Maybe you could say feelings are either a physiological and or a psychological response to an event.
External stimuli.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and love is not in that category. We're say fear, hate, lust, greed, all those feelings are in that category. But love, we are saying, is something different.
Yeah. So we define love as the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is, what's presently manifest, what's right in front of you. It's accepting it. I don't mean like, death and taxes, the two inevitabilities. It's not like that. It's far deeper than that. I would ask our viewing audience a question. Has anybody, how do I phrase it? What did I used to ask? Have you ever loved? Have you ever loved? Are you experienced? Jimi Hendrix said. Not necessarily stoned, but beautiful. So that question to people who've loved, there's no question about it. Yeah, I've had the experience. I've been in love. But if there's any uncertainty, if that's, I think I was in love, or maybe a little bit, or I'm not sure, it's a definitive experience, like having a baby. You ever had a baby? Anybody in any doubt about that experience? I hope not. Jeez. Well, I guess you could have been in a coma or something.
Right.
You're following it. Well, let's not go there. So love it's an absolute state, because the key in that definition is unconditional acceptance. the experience, first of all, not thought, not feeling, not emotion, but experience. Have you ever skydived? That was an experience. I haven't skydived. Couldn't get me in a plane like that. I'd be afraid the plane would crash before I even jumped out. I don't like those single engine jobbies. Anyway, so love is an experience which we define as being free of a survival identity. Segues neatly into what I said earlier, that it's not a survival function. Love is not about survival. And there's a reason for that we'll hopefully get to. The experience of unconditional acceptance of present reality. That's what it is. And to unconditionally accept something, you got to unconditionally know. And as we've said a number of times on our shows, nobody knows anything absolutely other than, something's going on at my location. So love in human form, as we are now, is necessarily conditional. And maybe we'll just throw that out there for starters. Next.
Right. Well, I think that for me, it's really interesting, because what we're saying here is that maybe what the underlying essence of everything that is being. We've talked about this before, that in the Old Testament, God saying, "My name is I am," and that is
God,
the.
Please don't mention God.
I know you said that, but the I amness, that is what pervades the universe. That's what all that is.
Tells us it's the life force.
Beingness.
Beingness is the life
Right.
force, and all that stuff on top of it. All that stuff we think about ourselves, and we think we know what a yellow-bellied sapsucker is. So we think we know something. Or E equals MC squared. Well, we could talk about that too, but that there's all that self-opinion that we form about ourselves that creates our ego structure.
So maybe the pure experience is it is to just the being, a beingness.
Yeah.
And when you say I experienced something, it means you were really there. It was you weren't thinking about it. You weren't living in your beliefs and your mental processes. You were just being.
Yeah, we went to visit my daughter in Australia, in Sydney. We took her to a bunch of movies, and she was she's about 11, 12 years old. She had to see aliens. So we took her, and she spent about maybe 3/5 of the movie under the seat or in the back, hiding behind the back row of seats. I mean, that was not experiencing aliens.
Right.
Aliens would be to sit in the front row and completely suspend disbelief and just be horrified and let it work on you. That would be much more of an experience than covering your eyes and clogging your ears up.
So we're saying that love is an experience. Love is, and so as I said earlier, that the more you are experiencing, the less your mental processes are clogging up what you're experiencing, what's coming through to you. So love is the place we get to when we've removed all the thoughts and beliefs about reality,
or at least a critical mass of them.
Yes, and we're getting to where experience is, and the experience of unconditional acceptance, because what our beliefs and thoughts are doing is constantly judging reality, and that's why we don't live in a state of love, because we're constantly rejecting reality in one way or another.
Because we float on a sea of uncertainty. The beliefs, as we talked about, I think a week ago, I can't remember when the last time we talked about the personality being put together. It's a parasitic host relationship. A belief can't exist in a vacuum. A belief requires a believer. I'm ugly isn't just floating around in space. It's like, one of my mainstays. I'm ugly, so that belief survives unchanged through time, the effort of a specific form to maintain its existent structural integrity. That belief survives by having me continue to believe in it. And the only threat to it is to challenge it. I mean, I know I'm not Cary Grant, but I don't think I'm the Elephant Man, which is basically what this son of a bitch thinks I am, And as long as I subscribe to it, that's me. That's who I am, and it really takes the edge off life. So we're slaves, to these prevailing beliefs, these things we decided when we were still in diapers the way we were going to play the game of life. And they are in competition. It's really a variation of mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. That's what ego is. That's what everybody really kind of means by ego. Mm-hmm. We're like in a knife fight. We're in competition with everybody else, the rat race, in a real deep psychological way.
Like I said, I was competing with his daughter's mother to see if I could be a better mother,
Because we're so insecure. We don't know who we are, but we go through this life, acting like we really know what end is up. And the truth is we don't. The great golden key of humility.
So we have opinions about everything. And so maybe you could kind of run through the mechanics of the list of acceptable.
All right. The way we put it together with a couple, genetics, environmental, the tribe, our parents, however we're programmed, our religion, resident witch doctor, however we put it together. Our cat says, don't blame that kind of talk on me. We have an internal list that we all form early on of likes and dislikes, basically what we call the positive and negative on a scale of acceptability. I like blue eyes more than brown eyes, or, I like red hair more than blonde hair.
His mother was a redhead.
I knew she was going to say that. All right, I'll cop to a little edible. A little edible, I can't even say it. And
I like chess players better than soccer players.
Yes.
I like people who are intellectual better than people who work with their hands.
I like big. Let's see. Bigger is not necessarily better. Here's and when it gets to behavioral, I like people who don't use 4-letter words every other word. I don't like.
I like people that drink better than people that are teetotalers because they're looser, more fun. On every conceivable subject, we have an opinion, a like and a dislike, a scale of what's better and what's worse.
And for every positive trait on our scale of acceptability, because the mind is so devious, if nothing else, it has to be logical, it has to convince us. So if somebody who uses 4-letter words is a negative on my scale, that means someone who doesn't use negative 4-letter words must be a positive. Did I say that right?
Say it again.
If you use 4-letter words a lot, and that's negative to me, then someone who doesn't do that must be held in a positive on my scale of acceptability. If you have brown eyes, and I've got this blue eye, brown eye thing, if you have blue eyes, I'll find you acceptable, so I must find the darker the eye less acceptable. Not necessarily totally less acceptable. Let's don't mince words. It's negative. Mm-hmm. So every positive on the scale must have an opposing negative to be damnably logically convincing. Right. So, and the way we go through life, 90% of the time, and I'll go to the mat on this one, because, if your life is brimming with love, tell me where I can come and sit at your feet and learn from you, because you're an enlightened saint. And right now, I'm just talking at a very fundamental, frankly, I think the level that most of us are really familiar with, and not necessarily the thunderbolt, but it's like that because most of our life is spent in a state of what we call animal flight, fight, survival. Our egos are in competition with everybody else. Our beliefs, in order to survive maximally unchanged, must go unchallenged. That's the reason we hang around people who tend to agree with us and are like us. We don't want to have the master ruling ego doesn't want to have its integrity challenged, its structural integrity threatened.
The way it survives is by convincing us that it is the best way to believe, the best way to think. So in order to maintain that belief, you have to find fault with everybody else's beliefs, everybody else's way of thinking, because if they were righter than you, you'd have to change. So it's the survival of our beliefs, overall belief structure requires us to go out and find fault with other people. And because we have such a long and complex list of positives and negatives, everybody's such a complex mix of those things. It's really easy to find fault with pretty much everybody.
And that's the tendency,
you know.
is to find fault.
And so you
to
meet
elevate
somebody,
yourself by cutting off other people's heads.
and you can feel it. You
Well
meet
done.
somebody, and you just, it's just head to toe within seconds. I mean, psychologists talk about this. Within seconds, you've got the other person filed away. You've made your decisions about who they are and how you should treat them, and you're assessing them against your list.
So ordinarily, we're in a state of finding fault, to protect ourselves, cover ourselves, because it's not just finding fault. It's to conceal it, keep people at arm's length, because you don't want people to see you.
Well, there's so many different things, and in our book we have time to go through them all.
Because there's also deep insecurity, and part of that insecurity is, to begin with, I'm a phony. I don't know about you. I have no freaking idea who Arthur is, almost, before 11
That's
o'clock.
okay, we can bleep it out. So
So I don't know who I am. That makes me a phony. Deep down, I know that the whole edifice is built on thin air. Secondly, I've done all sorts of things that I knew I shouldn't done. I mean, way back as a child, stealing the last cookie or something. I don't know. Whatever. All that negative stuff I'm allowed to suppress and keep deep down. And I don't want anybody to get close. And so I'm really, it's like life under ego domination is a lonely, competitive state of affairs. And what we settle for is, we use the word friend very loosely, but how many people can you really bare your soul to? How many people can you really open up to? Not many. Maybe not any in my experience, really, completely.
Okay, so we all have these lists in our head, the positive and the negatives, on our list of what's acceptable. And as we said, most people, we find a fair number of faults. But occasionally, we find somebody who matches quite a few number of things on our positive list. And those people become our friends because we find those a lot acceptable about them. And so we want to spend time around them because they're acceptable to us. Then on rarer occasions, we find somebody who just basically matches or almost exactly matches our list of positives. And so that means that they have almost no negatives on our list of acceptable traits. So because they are so closely match what we find acceptable, we actually have the experience of acceptance for them. And
a profound and inordinate, and
it's
really inordinate.
We're not going to get to unconditional because that means unlimited, infinite. However, it's compared to our ordinary state of awareness.
Extraordinary.
It's an extraordinary level of acceptance for somebody. So we are experiencing acceptance for that person, and the other word for that is love. And you can feel it when you fall in love with somebody. It's because you really, really like them. And that's just another word for saying there are things about them that you really find acceptable, that fit your idea of what is the right thing, the best thing for a person to be. They fit that list. And so, for a time, sometimes it's one day, sometimes it's years.
Sometimes it can be a moment for a perfect stranger.
Right. And you have this experience of acceptance. And so, for us, that's really what love is this mechanical movement into the experience of unconditional acceptance. And it sounds like, wow, you've drained all the romance out of it. But for me, really what it does is it demystifies love, because the way love is in our culture, it's something that you fall into, that it's something that you have no control over, that you can't make it happen at any time. But with our definition, it is something you can make happen at any time.
Which is another category, though, because what we're describing right now is falling in love.
No. I'm saying I'm saying that what we're doing is we're demystifying it and saying that if it is true that love is the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is, then at any time we can access the experience of love by accepting what is. And to me, that's the benefit of this.
Well, let's not get to the happy news first, okay? Let's slow it down a mite, because I want to talk about this falling in love stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Yeah. I really wasn't finished with all that.
Okay.
So go ahead, point it out.
That it is an automatic process of falling in love, that You have no control over it. I'll give you a great validation. We were talking in the relationship show about having the same damn relationship over and over again.
That's
You know,
right.
anybody relate to that? You know, you notice there you are with the same personality type again. Thought you'd learned. You know why? Because your list of acceptability, your scale of acceptability is like chiseled in stone. And only that kind of person is going to unlock the key to your heart. And it's not really even unlocking the key to your heart. It's just like, you know, you're walking down the street, negative, thinking you're a happy together person, but it's really just laser, you know, on alert for the enemy. And all of a sudden, there she is, you know, or there he is, you know. You know, I mean, and your scale of acceptability, you may think a hoodlum motorcycle biker, you know, who likes to fist fight and throw people through plate glass windows. That's your idea of a dreamboat. That's your, you know,
And just
scale
because
of
it's on
acceptability.
right,
It
just because
doesn't
it's
mean-
on your positive list doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing or that it's good for you.
Ted Bundy had a list. You ever see any pictures of his victims, those 30-odd women known that he killed? They all look alike. They all had long hair parted in the middle. There was a similarity that was just amazing. Yeah, he had a scale of acceptability. Of course, it wasn't love he was looking for. It's rather the opposite. But so that's it. We're walking along, negative, and suddenly, or you meet someone and you spend a little more time with them and you know, oh, you're into that. Yeah, so am I, you know. Like in Groundhog Day when Bill Murray was trying to get his fangs into, you know, Ms. McDowell's part. I can't remember. What was her name?
I can't remember.
Anyway, and what he did was she liked vermouth with a twist of lemon. So the next time they meet, I'll have a vermouth. I'll say, oh, that's my favorite drink. You studied French poetry. What a waste of time. You know, you speak, the next time they meet, you speak French. Oui. You know, I mean.
But he was
you know,
matching her list.
And the next thing you knew, he almost got her. You
That's
know,
right.
she was.
But that's a great illustration of the list of acceptable traits.
So we ennobilize love. I mean, because a hell of a lot of it is nothing but breeding instinct. It's reproductive. And you really want to, you know, besmirch love, which is nothing besmirching about that. I'm glad my parents mated. I mean, life's been tough, but I had a good time. I'm glad I'm here. So,
but maybe this is why we have so much trouble loving our people in our family, because we know we're supposed to love them, but they, you know, don't match our list of positive traits necessarily. So, you know, there's this conflict between what we should do and that they just don't, you know, unlock that key to the acceptable, to us accepting them. So you know, there's a real conflict because we think it's something. We think love is just something that. God, I mean, what did the average person even think about, like, loving, you know, your brother? I mean, your real brother. You know, like, it's just something that's supposed to just
do,
happen.
like loving God.
Yeah.
Oh, I said the word again. Sorry. You know, how many people really experience a deep, profound love for Jehovah. You know, somebody lounging on a throne up there while we're down here on this killing floor, you know, sweating like hogs. How much love can you have for that? But let's not get into theology. So it's, the obligatory love.
Yeah, I'm
you know?
trying to even imagine how most people think of it. I'm not, you know, I guess I've gotten so far away from it, you know, that it's like something you're just supposed to
Live
do.
in fear of is more like it.
Yeah, live in fear of going to Thanksgiving dinner is what.
Oh, you're
I'm
thinking
talking about family.
I was thinking about God. I was thinking about the turkey.
Well, anyway, so let's not worry about what they think.
No, let's not. So love. I mean, I suggested this show should be about hate and fear, or something we're eminently more familiar with.
Let's do
if you're
song.
anything like me.
Let's do Temple of another song we haven't done before, which we do in B flat.
B flat. Ain't no big thing, baby, and B flat.
Well, now this is another song that maybe sounds like it's about relationship, but
No, this one is more universal, I would
because
say.
right, but just the way you sang it when we rehearsed it, you put you said Temple of Our Love, which made me think.
I wrote it that way for some reason,
But that makes it sound more about relationship.
Yeah,
where
so
I
can
always
now.
considered it about universal love.
Very well. Jawohl, meine Frau Kommandant. 1, 2, 3. The temple of love would have no ceiling to stop the sun from lighting all within. No walls, however great, could hold the feeling, the boundary no beginning and no end. We are the temple, we are the temple, we are the temple of love. The temple floor would be of truth more lasting than inlaid marble, tiles of gold. Music would be simply for the asking, in every sound you're hearing could enfold. We are the temple, we are the temple, we are the temple of love. We are now. We are the temple of love. The altar we would choose would be a mirror to let us see so truly who we are, would keep the surface polished ever clearer, and let our love reflect out to the stars. We are the temple, we are the temple, we are the temple of love. We are now. We are the temple of love. The celebration would go on forever, the living and the dying in the plan, learning how to love, the one endeavor, taking all our time since time began. Same thing, celebration would go on forever, the living and the dying in the plan, learning how to love, the one endeavor, taking all our time since time began. We are the temple, we are the temple, we are the temple of love. Oh, we are the temple, we are the temple, we are the temple of love. My Fender's still, still squeaking. The damn thing's made in China. Jeez.
Yeah, that's what you get.
Fender guitars. You
get.
can't even make a bar stool.
I know one of the problems with globalization is it's like even if you want to pay more to buy something of quality, it's
made here.
It's pretty much impossible. They've made it impossible. You know, they force you to get the cheap. Anyway.
We're slaves. We're slaves to the rich, friends. That's another show, the slavery show. We've already done it. It's called Politics.
That's right. But there's
It's
certainly
arranging
more.
the deck chairs in the nut house. That's what politics is. Anyway.
So, interesting line in that song about the altar we would choose would be a mirror to let us see so truly who we are.
Oh, that's the operative.
We
Truly
keep
who
the
we are.
surface polished ever clearer and let our love reflect out to the stars. And so if we go back to what our definition of love, which is the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is, that's what the altar, the clear mirror is. We're reflecting back the way it really is. We're not trying to alter it in our minds, which is what we usually do.
Well, what do we usually do when we look in a mirror? That line always surprised me. Because, it's like all you see in the mirror is the illusion. It's like, it's Arthur again. I've seen that movie. But that's not to let us see so truly who we are. Right. And maybe what the true vision is, I have no damn idea who I am or what I'm looking at. That's for starters. That's called humility. And if you can see the humility, you can maybe accept that fact, the objective fact that I don't know what I'm looking at. And that's a profound stay. That's Fool on the Hill, keeping perfectly still, and the eyes in his head sees the sun going down, and the world spinning around. Sees the way it is, not the way you think it is, or hope it is, or believe it is, or have long acted like you know what is, but the way it really is. Humility is always required.
But see, I was thinking of it as a different way. It's like that I'm the mirror of what I'm seeing out there in the reality. And so reality comes in, and then I alter it through my, because it's been filtered through my belief systems, and then I'm projecting it back out to the world, altered. You know, my beliefs. Yeah, so my beliefs about reality have shifted what's actually so to fit my beliefs about it. So the clearer you are, the truer you are as a mirror, the more purely you're just reflecting back the way it is, and that's the experience of love.
That's not the way I write it.
Oh,
I wrote literally the altar has a mirror on it.
Uh-huh.
You know, what's his name? Mel Lyman wrote a book called The Mirror at the End of the Road. It's almost like that old poem, you can't fool a man in the glass. It's like, look in the mirror. You know, and if you can accept that, if you can accept what you're looking at, your love can reflect out to the stars from the mirror, you know, and from within you. If you don't love yourself, it's an old cliche. You know, most people take that to mean have confidence in yourself. Hello, my name's Bob. You know, it's like, okay, nice to meet you, Bob. How's everything working out for you? How's that coexisting with Titanic ignorance working out for you?
Well, and that goes back to what you were saying earlier about our insecurities and our fear of being a phony. That's part of the reason why we're always competing with everyone else out there to stand tall and cut off their heads, is because we're so afraid of our smallness.
And the horrible part is all this stuff is subconscious. I mean, we're slaves and we don't, unconscious.
We learn that difference.
We don't know this is going on.
Right.
You know, this is not an endorsement of LSD 25, but the first time I did it, I was free of it for the first time in my life. And in my adult life, I had the strong sense that I'd been in this state before, but it was like way back, like infancy. And it was paradise. And all it was is I was free of my subjective ego, my opinions about myself for a few hours. And, oh man. And until then, you know, I had waist length hair. I was making a living in music in San Francisco, living a hip lifestyle. I thought I had it together, baby. I thought I was happy. That I was living with a psycho bitch. You know, my life was wretchedly unhappy.
An earlier version of me.
No, I think I've definitely moved up the food chain, baby.
Oh, thank you.
No question about it.
Oh, that's all right. I have my psycho bitch qualities.
Don't we all? Somebody called me a bitch recently. Somebody I thought was an old friend of mine. Yikes. Yoicks. Yeah, nobody's preaching here, man. I mean, you know, this is Bansky K City. This is just we're broadcasting to you from another ward in the nut house. You know, this is the, you know, we just think we've stumbled onto some ideas that have merit, that are logically consistent. Like, you know, I wish to God somebody had told me what love was when I was a kid, when I was younger.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, that made some sense of it and say, well, there's brotherly love, there's, you know, there's romantic love, there's love for your parents and your family, and there's
love of work.
Love of work, you know, and all it is acceptance. It's the experience of acceptance. And one of my favorite definitions in our book, The Game of God, Recovering Your True Identity, is our definition of experience. Experience is being free of a survival identity. And we say that love is experience and is not in any way related to flight, fight, survival. I mean, the manifestation of love that we call facing reality, which is what it is, it's really maybe just gussied up mating instinct, you know? It's because animals, you know, spend 98% of their time in a flight, fight state of alert, but they do get off it to mate.
Well, we went through a period really thinking about this specifically, you know, that it sounds like, and this may not be true, but that biologists basically, you know, classify animal behavior in the two categories, flight or fight, fear or hate. And so we started thinking about it. Well, animals spend a lot of time grooming each other, and
raising young,
cooperating and raising
making young.
In addition to mating, there are all these behaviors that they didn't seem to be fight or
social
flight to us.
Right. Wolves you babysit while the
right.
Parents are
Right. How does this fit into the category? And so we started thinking, well, maybe we really need to have a third category of animal behavior, which we're like, well, let's see, another F word. Well, since it was beyond mating, so we came up with fondle as, you know, because it kind of went in the friendly, you know, the grooming and those kinds of behaviors. And so then we kind of kept going, and that we could say that this was about facing reality.
The reality that you need to replicate yourself,
right?
And honor the raising of the young and continuing the line,
right?
Facing reality, and you can't do that when you can't fornicate when you're fighting and flighting. Or I guess you could. I guess that's called S&M.
Or that's what the
fornicate. Jesus.
The praying mantis. That's the praying mantis.
Oh, yeah, eat your mate's head off. Like, think the Marquis de Sade, do you think you're kinky?
But yeah. So and then we just that for us this is how we move towards the whole new way. That this is a way that in our human life that mostly our psychology is based on flight-fight responses. And that here's the alternative, that there is the facing reality. And as we go down that line of facing reality, then we start experiencing love much more often in our lives, and not just in specific focused ways,
like
but in a more general way. Love for the way it is, love for the universe as it is, love
much more
for people on the
much
street.
more lasting, right?
Right,
Because it isn't contingent on your fixed list of positive and
That's
negatives.
right. Or
it's getting that the whole damn thing, which is what happened on my first trip. It was all perfect.
Right.
I knelt in an arbitrary piece of ground with mud puddles. It was drizzling rain and dirt and pebbles and twigs and blades of grass. And it was the jewelry case of God. It was magnificently beautiful in a way that I'd never seen before. It was a section of dirt under my feet. That's how perfect it is if we have eyes to see. Mm-hmm. And so's every crumb bum on the street, and so's every pathetically screwed up serial killer who should not be turned loose, but should be cared for in a maximum security mental hospital, barring a cure, which is unlikely at this point, mainly because what we do with them now is kill them. State-sanctioned suicide. That's
or
what
we lock them in these horrible cages that would drive. If I was put in what I see a maximum security prison, I would become insane. Within a short period of time.
Or just a regular jailhouse.
We're driving people insane by putting them in those things.
God, the Citizen Times. You ever read some of those comments that people write in? It's unbelievable. But actually, we're working on a book called "We Are All Innocent by Reason of Insanity." It's about compassion, and it argues that we are indeed not playing the game of life with anything like a full deck. We're because we're lost, we're ego dominated. We're not in touch with reality. We're not in touch with basic humility, And what do you call someone who's out of touch with reality? So one of the arguments we used is down in Georgia, this old man got butted to death by a goat named Snowball,
right.
And then, they had taken the goat into custody, probably didn't read him the rights. Anyway, and it got out that the old man had abused the goat. And man, in Georgia, another hanging state like Florida, which is where I came from, the letters of support for Snowball just poured in. Their pleas for clemency. Something just like it this week in the Asheville Times. A tourist got bitten on the foot by a black bear. Bear was taken into custody, and oh man, people are outraged when they found out the bear was going to be put down for just biting a tourist on the foot.
Yeah, it
was the tourist's fault.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the tourist should, all these things should be done to the tourist.
So
not
suddenly
the bear.
they're all into extenuating circumstances. They find out that Snowball was abused, so save Snowball. He actually was finally sent to a petting zoo.
Of all things.
Yeah. Take your least favorite child to the petting zoo today. Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a human being, because we have free will, supposedly, then there are no extenuating circumstances.
These people write all the time about put them in the, somebody abused their child or something, put him in a cell with Bubba, or carefully select his roommate. You know what I mean? He's in for a reaming. That's the polite, hideousness of our society, that a trip to prison means you may well be raped or threatened with unspeakable violence. As well you should, because this is the part of the sentence that we don't really talk about in the courtroom. But it's what you deserve because you chose to be.
Okay.
Snowball couldn't help it.
So we're talking
So
about
we're
love.
talking about love. Well, this is something I'm much more familiar with. Is,
Well, maybe we should do another song.
Fear, hate, and
How
unconsciousness.
about I'd Choose, since you mentioned that we were going to do it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll do that one. What is it, key? B?
It says B.
B, B. All of this is absolutely unavoidable and inevitable. We're just in the phase of evolution right now where we're all ego dominated. It was absolutely, when an ape got higher intelligence, got analytical thought, mistakes are made, but they're not even mistakes. It's perfectly part of the evolutionary process.
That's right.
But if we're going to survive and go explore the stars together,
4.
4, oh, B. Oh, yeah. A, B, C, D, or something. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close enough for folk. I keep thinking of Temple of, what is this?
I'd Choose.
2, 3. My life is a collection of sensations. My feelings are the proof that I'm alive. An endless spring, my senses, variations, wedded to emotions buzzing high. Yeah, my feelings stretch across the widest spectrum, changing every heartbeat of my time. And if there was some way I could select them, there's one choice I know that would be mine. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. I'd choose love, there is no meaning that is felt so true. I'd choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. Love, I think you're what we all are called to. You could keep your offices of power, robes of glory on some golden throne, or the grace of beauty's awesome flower, or basking in the spotlight all alone. Yeah, you could keep the riches of the richest nations, mighty deeds that shake the skies above. If I were sane, I'd choose but one sensation, and that's to look at you and just feel love. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. I'd choose love, there is no meaning that is felt so true. I'd choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. Love, I think you're what we all are called to. Now the world is darkness and the world is light. In between that starkness, subtle shades of sight. Anger, fear, and hatred wouldn't mean a thing unless love counterweighted them to give the bell its ring. I'd choose love, there is no feeling that comes close to you. Love, there is no meaning that is felt so true. I'd choose love, there is no shielding when you're shining through. Love, I think you're what we all are called to. I'd choose love, I think you're what we all are called to. I'd choose love, I think you're what we all are called to. Oh, if only I could. If only I could choose. But there are... A young man came to dinner at our house once, and we were talking, as usual, about our work, and I asked him if he'd ever loved, and he said no. Mm-mm. And just in 30 seconds, he just reached over, impulsively took my hand and put it on his chest, and his heart was going. Actually, I looked at him. That's what it was. Yeah. I looked at him, and there it was, the experience of love between us. And he just took my hand and put it on his chest, and his heart was just going. I was like, the fear that he felt at the you're entering the inner sanctum where demons lurk, where the ego master prefers no trespassers, so he can do its work in the dark.
Again, because also we have these rules about what it means to love. So in his mind, I'm sure, was the thought, oh my God, I love a man. That must mean I'm homosexual.
Yeah, I had that exact experience once.
And sure. That's where a lot of times all those rules about what love is and get in the way of actually experiencing it. Because if we feel love for somebody that doesn't fit the rules, then we'll suppress it for fear of what it means to love that person. And I would say that was a lot of his fear. It was not just, the ego threatening.
I never really thought that,
I'm just saying it was part of it.
I definitely, I can see where it was part of it, but it was like, I think it was the experience itself just bowled him over.
Yeah,
because there
I think
it was.
So too.
And it could well be. It could have well be. I don't know that. Could have well been that. I mean, I experienced it myself. The first time I loved a man on acid, and it was coming on, and we were laying in this grass, beautiful bay up north of San Francisco, and all of a sudden I was just intoxicated with love for this person. And I started to hide it, like, oh my God, I'm gay, kind of enough problems, jeez. And then I realized, you idiot, you've done enough trips to know that, when telepathic communication is like trying to, sit on a foghorn and make it so nobody can hear it. It's like you're completely transparent if things are going the right way. And so I just lifted my head up and said, man, I love you so much. And he said, I was just thinking the same thing. We had a great day together. No sex, just so the viewing audience knows. Just so the viewing audience. It literally never came up. Oh, yeah. Stop it.
That's silly. But, I just wanted to say that's, one of the things that's really helped me lately in my understanding of people and the world at large is to keep reminding myself how complex things are. That anytime you say the reason something is you're going to be wrong, because that's making something more simple than it really is. A reason. I take the out and put in a. And so this is a contributing factor. And there could be so many others, but this is the one that occurs to me. And it's definitely helped me. So I just wanted to say, and because how many times have I gotten into conflict with somebody just because I wanted to say the reason I thought of is the right one. And if I just said, I think this is a reason, the conflict would have been avoided.
And we still hold that there are certain truths that are universal. Subjective. What's that wonderful quote we just read? Everyone is entitled to their own opinion. However, everyone is not entitled to their own facts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think but
I think
right.
It was Pat Moynihan, as a matter of fact.
Right, but there are truths, and right, you can't have your own opinion about what the fact is.
That's right.
It either is or isn't.
Well, let's say, where are we with this? So we've talked about love. There's talking about love, and then there's having the experience of love. Terrifying. Two very different things.
Yes.
Very different things. Because love is an experience. Talk is intellectual.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference between talking about love and having the experience of love. So. Well, let the good times roll. It seems to me we'd better, get on board with learning how to love each other and what that really means. People think love is so gooey and, and it's soft and weak, and it's pragmatic. It's, accepting reality. Does that sound like a good idea? When we say that love is the optimum state of survival, how about the experience of unconditional acceptance of what is, what's right there? Mm-hmm. Whether, if I don't accept it, it doesn't give a good goddamn. It's there. It's already existent. My inability to accept it is like railing against the color of an orange. Who cares? It's not going to change the color of an orange, I guarantee you. And so accepting reality maximally empowers us, theoretically, and is there anybody can argue with that, to deal with the reality, to deal with the way it is. Is that, I don't like the way somebody else, oh, that scares me, and I'm going to run from it. So love is not soft and squishy. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is deliriously beautiful, and we write epic poems about it, and we develop epic relationships out of it, and we write songs about it. How many songs are love songs? And the reason we make a big deal out of it is it's so freaking rare. It doesn't happen very often. I think most people would willingly cop to that. Walk down the street, see how much love you get, get near me and I'll kill you. I'm strapped, I mean, God, I'm 64 years old, man. In the summer, in 67 in California, woohoo! You got some nice vibes from people on the street. Nashville's a nifty town, but I'll tell you, it ain't San Francisco in the 60s, baby. It's a nice imitation. It's definitely a progressive liberal culture, but it's, or maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm shut down and closed in, which I definitely am. At the age of 64, I'm kind of tired of, the subject. You never know it listening to this show. But it looks like we're never going to learn. We're never going to change. We're going to freaking off ourselves. Self-extinction is looming, and what do we learn? We're slaves in a clown democracy that's about as democratic as a Kim Jong-il. It's about 2 clicks up the food chain from that. You're a slave to the rich. You don't have a prayer. What else? Let's see, 2 minutes left. What else can we bash?
Well,
it's not a bashing. It's like, hello, warning, Will Robinson. Can we maybe wake up and realize we're in trouble? Maybe we should get off our asses and stop watching American Idol, and come together and do something. Let's go to Washington and shut that goddamn place down. Is that revolutionary enough for you?